Hi, I'm Steve Caliper. Thank you so much for being a part of our Doing Good Better University. We are excited about today's discussion. We've spoken a number of times about are you donor ready and the aspects around becoming donor ready and the art of it as it relates to clarity, confidence, and passion around who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And certainly we recognize the who you are and what you do is important. We certainly recognize building confidence, confidence in the message around vision, strategy. Where do you want to be in 12, 18, 24 months from now? And then what are the outcomes and the results of you achieving, what you're shooting for, what you're wanting to accomplish at each of those respective milestones. And then certainly the why piece, whether it be humanitarian, the gospel, changing lives in a particular community because of water, reaching kids, at-risk kids, or at-risk families, whatever it happens to be is the passion and the heart around why you do what you do. Today's discussion is a fun one. It's a hard one because we all want to be in this space because we recognize from the nonprofit side that we recognize flat out that there's a lot of money and capital that can be given to our organizations to help us fuel and fund, what we desire. And so it's finding the right alignment, building the right credibility and the right relationships with individuals as it relates to advancing our mission. Now, what I'm describing is, are you foundation ready? Being able to pursue and to connect with foundations, not just from a proposal and a funding perspective, but being able to connect relationally to have the opportunity and earn the right. Because foundations and people that live in the space of foundations, whether they're a corporate foundation or a family foundation, they are people too. Now let's segment and break out each of the two types of foundations that I'm going to be sharing and talking about today. One is the corporate foundation, which we know across the country there are corporate foundations that are established and designed. Some of them have staffs and teams, but they are designed to give away a certain dollar amount on an annual basis to organizations domestically, locally, and internationally. And we also recognize that there are family foundations or couples that have been blessed, and they have either a private foundation or they give out of a donor-advised account. And many of you are probably familiar with that. But in both accounts, they're people. They're people that desire to have relationship. The arena in the foundation space, using this as a generic, both camps, there's become a lot more clarity from their perspective on them defining, them being, especially the family foundation, defining what it is that they're wanting to accomplish and achieve with their giving and their philanthropy. Not just looking at, who gets on their calendar, who submits a request, or what banquet do they go to that they write checks out of a certain account. But they're really thinking through, how is the world different because of? The because of is the blessings, the amount of capital that they want to deploy, whether it be $250,000 a year. In the course of the next 10 years, you're going to give away $2.5 million. What's the difference of the kingdom in the world that we can make because of that? Or if it's $1 million a year. To be thinking about the question around, how is the world different in 10 years by giving away $10 million? Those are the questions that families and family foundations are getting their head around. They're getting their hearts engaged because now they're moving from reactive to proactive in their giving, which is actually a lot of fun. So here's the question. As you're becoming donor ready, are you becoming foundation ready? Here's a couple of aspects that we're going to share with you today. One is process. Process of the pursuit relationally. That's number one. And then there's process around the introduction, the submission process, and then the reporting process, which is, I think, equally as important. It's amazing, as I have the opportunity to serve and to be on the side of the table with some families and family foundations, unless there's a requirement by the organization, being the foundation, to submit a report, it's amazing to how many organizations don't report. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But here's the question. Are you donor ready? And then what's the art of it from a relationship standpoint, as well as a tactical standpoint? So let's look at the relationship side first. As you know, I'm a relationship-driven guy, and I think that that's where the rubber meets the road. That's really where the crescendo happens in the foundation space. So becoming foundation ready is it is about doing your homework and learning and gleaning and figuring out as much as you can about the foundations kind of in your space. Look at research, foundation directory, and there's a lot of different other vehicles that you can tap into to learn and to get a landscape of what foundations are out there, where they're giving, who they're giving to, and how much. As much research as that you can do on the back end is going to be to your advantage currently and certainly and without doubt moving forward. And so on the research side, you can look at some of the elements that I've already mentioned, but there's one other piece, is most foundations have a board of directors or trustees. Look at those lists, and between yourself and your board and your leadership team, see if there's any synergy or connectivity as it relates to trustees or board members of foundations that you can connect with relationally. Actually, an organization that I'm working with just today, in fact, in a conversation, there was a relationship that a donor, a supporter of this organization, knew the executive director of a foundation and has really pursued and helped the organization. And now, day after tomorrow, the foundation and the ministry leader that we're working with, they have a face-to-face meeting. I think personally there's great alignment, but it took some tactics and some strategy and a relationship to really make sure that could come to fruition and happen. So we're certainly in prayer and in good thought to good results coming from that. This is the old school as it relates to the foundation arena that organizations used to look at. And I just don't think that this is an approach and a process that works anymore. It used to be research, write a grant or an LOI, submit it. We hope that we get a positive response, and we hope that that is a financial funding of a certain dollar amount. And then it's to connect relationally to say thank you, and then it's submission again and around the horn. But if you notice, the first three steps had nothing to do with relationship. It had to do with research, writing a grant or an LOI, submission, hope to get a positive result, and then to connect relationally. I just don't think that that's the way that it's going to be to pursue foundations today in today's landscape. So the art of becoming foundation ready is to do your homework, do your research, then pursue relationally, hopefully connect at some relational level. A gathering, a banquet, maybe through a donor, trustee to trustee, a trustee of your organization and a trustee of the foundation, or hopefully that leads to a meet and greet, whether it be a phone call or a meeting in some capacity. And through the dialogue, now this is what I want to share. When you have the opportunity at a meet and greet, whether it be a phone call or a meeting, here's a couple of things to consider at this moment. Ask questions, listen. Ask questions that pertain to their interests, the interest of the trustees of the foundation. What are some of the organizations that they've been of interest in the past? Not just what you read on paper, because things change, but just like you're pursuing and to connect with someone relationally, are you donor ready? It's the same things. If you do have the opportunity to connect, or when you do have the opportunity to connect with someone that either runs a foundation or is a part of a foundation, make sure that you're asking questions, listen, glean, learn, and then find alignment, then share. And then hopefully that'll lead to what I call earning the right to submit. And then whatever that foundation's process is, once a year, quarterly, twice a year, find out what those cycles are and hit those dates with all the required information. So the pursuit now in the foundation arena is do your research, pursue relationally. Hopefully that leads to connecting at some level, meet and greet call, one-on-one meeting, or maybe they come to a banquet event as a guest of a board member or a donor of your organization. Then that might lead to a sit down, let's have a conversation. So let's step back now and look at the pursuit of what it is that you have at your disposal as an organization. We've shared with you, and many of you have probably created it. Old school term was case for support. We like to use the phrase investor brief. The investor brief, as you know, is the mirror image of an annual report. The investor brief is what you're doing, your mission, where you're going, kind of future thinking. And we want to make sure that we're using these tools effectively. And so what we've discovered is that an introduction, whether it be through email or mail, of the investor brief or the cover letter, then pick up the phone, make phone calls, connect with those foundations, leave voice messages. Whatever the frequency is, find a balance in frequency, pursue, make sure that you've at least done that multiple times. I personally know from foundations that they very rarely respond to a first letter. You might get a letter back, but they're not going to respond to a first voicemail. at least takes 2 or 3 times to pursue, to connect. Hopefully you'll get somebody to answer, to have that conversation with. Other tools at your disposal, a report. We often look at an annual report, which is typically seen as a 12, 14, 16-page annual report that really goes into a lot of depth as it relates to all the things that you've accomplished and achieved. What we're talking about is a shorter, simpler report. Sometimes it could be just like a 1-page report, something that you would potentially share with maybe your donor file or your key major donors. Look at the report as a piece of your toolkit that you can pursue to connect with the foundations, whether it be a corporate or family foundations. Even if the answer is no, even if it's not now, you can simply report, let them know what it is that you've accomplished, what it is that you've achieved, some of your results, some of your outcomes, to what it is that you've maybe had a dialogue with them or asked for previous funding. But make sure that you're continuing to find touch points. So there's a cycle. There's research, know about the foundation, connect, pursue relationally, voicemails, send the investor brief, pursue, follow up, leave voice messages, try to connect with. Don't overwhelm yourself. It's not 50 or 100. Find the right objective around it. Then, somewhere in this cycle, there's going to be a certain percentage of family foundations that you're going to connect with, or corporate foundations that are going to say, you've been in pursuit, I've gotten your reports, I've seen your investor brief, you've been diligent, or as I would say, patiently persistent for 6 months, 8 months, maybe a year. We want to sit down, or we want to have a phone conversation. In that conversation, again, what I just said a few minutes ago is make sure that you're asking questions and learning and gleaning and finding a connectivity and alignment to your mission and what it is that you're doing. So there's a lot of aspects around becoming foundation ready. As you've heard me share and describe, don't be shy to pursue relationally. That's absolutely the key. Now, I want to make sure that when we look at board members, make sure that you're sharing that information with some of your key board members so that you can have them help you pursue. Many corporate foundations as well as family foundations, they would, let me put it this way, they don't receive unsolicited requests. So basically what that's saying is that they don't want to receive a proposal from someone unless they know you. Again, going back to the pursuit relationally, I find that it's okay, personally, to send the investor brief as an intro. It's not an ask, it's not a request for funding, it's an introduction, because what you're saying to the foundation is what you do as a mission, what your vision and strategy is, aligns with what you believe that they give to. Let that be the intro. If you can find a connection with a board member or trustee, certainly that's worthy, no doubt. Now, the report piece is really critical, because really what the foundation and the family foundation is thinking about today is, what is the ROI? Now, we talked about the ROI last time, but the foundation is looking at the question of, if we give away $1 million a year over the next 10 years, we're going to give away $10 million. How is the world different with $10 million? They're looking at strategy, clarity, what sectors, what's the outcome, and they want to see what their ROI is. ROI is not always tactically the biggest bang for the buck. Sometimes ROI is greatest impact because of whatever the cause is. So it's not just a dollar per, but sometimes it's an impact in a certain space. I want to make sure that you're aware of that. Now, going back to the reporting piece, to bounce back there, in the arena of the foundation's reporting, sometimes just like with donors, if you haven't earned the right to get to the point where they'll receive a grant proposal or request, maybe it's the report first before you ask. Earn the right that someday you'll have the opportunity to submit a grant. If you follow this process versus the first process I described, the first process was do some research, submit a grant, hope for success, yay or nay, you're connecting or sending a note. If you get a yay, you follow up. If you get a no, you probably move on. That's old school. You had probably in today's day very little, if slim, chance of getting funding. If, however, you look at research, pursue relationally, connect relationally, dialogue, get to know each other, hopefully that'll increase the likelihood. What we find is that by following this process, once you connect relationally in this process, you have about a 50 or 60% chance, 50 to 60% chance of receiving a positive response to funding to your organization. And if that's the case in that cycle, it's likely that you'll see funding in that partnership for anywhere from about 2 to 3 years, which is the typical cycle of a family foundation or a fund is typically about a 3-year duration, and they want to take a break. So it's really important. Now, here's the another aspect is setting the most realistic goals. Now, if an organization desires to open up a portfolio of funding from foundations, either corporate or family foundations, I often hear organizations will say things like, we want to add, $500,000 to our income from foundations. That's great. Let's say that, for example, you're a $3 million organization, and now you want to have $500,000 be from the foundation space. Worthy. It's great alignment of percentages of overall income to the foundation space, but let's backfill to the right activity around hitting those goals on a quarterly basis. So if you get an average gift from a foundation, let's just call it $30,000. Doesn't take much to calculate an average gift of $30,000, $500,000 in gift support. You have to get in front of about 25 to 30 foundations at a 50 to 60% hit rate. So to get funding from roughly 15 foundations, you have to get in front of 30 foundations that welcome you, that you've earned the right to submit if you're at about a 50 to 60% hit rate. So now you have to backfill with time, capacity, research, ability to write, fulfill grants. So put realistic expectations into your portfolio and your game plan, knowing that the effort's going to have to be in place to hit that as a goal and an outcome. So if you're a $3 million organization and you haven't had any success or pursued foundations, it might be that you say, let's start year one with 10%, so $300,000. Average gift is $30,000 using the same matrix. That's 10 positives. That means you need to get in front of 20. So let's just backfill that. So you need to get in front of 20. So on the research side, you realistically need to come up with a list of about 40 to 50 foundations that you think have great alignment and great interest in the space that you're in. From that list of 40 or 50, you pursue locally, nationally, wherever happens to be in your schedule. Use the investor brief, do the reporting, look at 30, 45 days out of your travel schedule to call those foundations in that particular area that you're going to be going to. Hopefully you'll get one or two of them to want to meet, jump on a call. Let that be the trigger. From the numerics, 40 to 50 in the pipeline, you pursue, connect relationally. If you get the opportunity to get in front of 20, 50% positive hit rate, that's what I believe is possible with a good grant request and a good connectivity relationally, then that's where you hit your mark with 10 positive responses at an average of $30,000 in average grant, especially for first year funding. So that puts you at your $300,000 annual basis. Now, don't forget, when they have funded, report, even if they don't have anything in place. Most do, but even if they don't have anything in place, put a report process in place. At least on a minimum, connect with one report per year before you ask again, and make sure that you're connecting at least twice, maybe 3 times per year. Email, phone call, connect with that foundation, let them know what's happened. And here's something that's really important. Here's something that's absolutely important. When you receive funding from foundations or from a family foundation, and they've designated dollars to a particular initiative or a particular program, do exactly with those funds that the intent of the request was. If anything changes during the course of the year, something happens in the country, there's a geopolitical something, there's a hurricane that blows through, no harm, no foul. People understand that. Be intentional and forthright ahead of time with the family or the foundation with something's happened, we need to redirect the funds, we want to communicate with you openly, we've redirected the funds to do X, Y, and Z. But be transparent and open about that. But absolutely use the funds for exactly what the organization or the foundation has said that you can use those funds for. Here's another piece. I'm just going to add one more layer into this before we wrap up our time. Even though a foundation might not be asking for your pursuit to other foundations or how you're growing your donor file, communicate it. Foundations know other foundations. If you've one success and favor with one, share with the foundation other foundations that you're pursuing to get to know. They might bridge a relationship. They might say, you can use my name. But nonetheless, even if that's not the case, foundations love to know that you're pursuing other supporters, other donors, other foundations, because they don't want to feel like they're being trapped into supporting an initiative or a program in perpetuity. They love supporting, they love initiating, they love helping you take a program to the next level, but give them the confidence that you're growing and building out your donor file to get to a point where they want to continue to support you and not feel like they have to continue to support something that they've launched. So overall today, the lesson is, are you becoming foundation ready? What is the pursuit relationally with people that are running point on behalf of their family foundation or corporate foundation? Takeaways: do your research, pursue, connect relationally, make phone calls. Hopefully you'll get that one-on-one meeting, and that'll hopefully lead to a positive result in your pursuit. So at the end of the day, fundraising, building out the infrastructure of your organization, basically it's bridging what you're doing in the field missionally, whether you're overseas, somewhere around the world, locally in a community. You've got the right collateral tools in place from the investor brief, your funding menu, your report. Use those tools. They're all in your toolbox to pursue, to connect with the relationships that are right in front of you. Leverage off your board members and your key donors. Let them know what your goals are. And remember that pursuing and connecting with people is fun. And know this: the family and the foundations that you're pursuing, they have been blessed and they have incredible hearts. They're truly desiring and want to make the best impact, and they want to see the best results possible with what they've been blessed with. And they want to give generously. They're in the business of giving. Now it just comes down to who is connecting with them relationally, who has alignment, and who's able to articulate who they are, what they do, and why they do what they do clearly. Who do they like and who do they believe will in the field do what they said they're going to do to produce the result and the ROI that the foundation is desiring to see as an outcome of their generosity and their gifts. So on behalf of Doing Good Better University, myself, Steve Caliper, and our team, thank you for being in this journey. Thank you for being a part of this process together, as together we're making a difference in our local communities around the country and around the world. So thank you so much. Blessings to you, and we'll look forward to our next session on behalf of Doing Good Better in the university. Have a great day. God bless. Thank you so much.